If you work with children with behavior challenges, today's episode is for you. I'm going to share with you a very simple 5-step process that is going to be effective for every child that you work with on your caseload and every child in the room. This is simply best practice, empirically based strategies. Now, these strategies I'm going to share with you today come from a larger program for children that have disruptive behaviors, externalizing behaviors, and that's known as parent-child interaction training or teacher-child interaction training. Now, this is a larger empirically based program outside of the field of psychology. It was developed by Dr. Sheila Eiberg, and that was back in the 70s. So we're looking at an approach that has over 50 years of empirical support. When they look at the meta-analytic research, it has large effect sizes in dealing with children with disruptive behaviors. However, the good news is I'm going to take from that program a 5-step strategy, a responsive approach, and child-directed interaction that every single child you work with in a classroom or every single child in your caseload is going to benefit from. And what we're going to do is we're going to improve behavior not through taking a compliance-based approach, but an approach that's based on connection. When we start with this connection approach, what we're doing is we're building a foundation based on relationships. When we have a nice, strong foundation, then we can put up the barriers, the walls of the house, and the boundaries. Where do we begin? At the foundation level. So I'm going to talk to you today about this 5-step process I want you to try with not some of your kiddos, but all of your kiddos. And I want you to use this approach liberally. I want you to use it like a 7-layer wedding cake. Lay the frosting on. This is good stuff. This is going to build relationships. This is going to build connections. This is going to build the child's capacity to handle the social, emotional, academic challenges that lie ahead. We want to build capacity. We're building a foundation with these 5 steps. So the 5 steps, the acronym is known as PRIDE, PRIDE. I'm going to go through each of these steps. It's been researched on ages 2 to 7. Now, the program that this is derived from, this is a key component of the program in the child-directed interaction phase. This is the responsive phrase that you start off the program with to build the child's capacity, to build a nice relationship, to build positive momentum. This is about building the foundation. Now, when we're talking about this strategy, it has been researched on a variety of children. So when we're talking about children, this is diverse populations. And it's been shown to be effective with diverse populations. So I'm just going to go through this list. I've typed it out of how this approach. Now, when I talk about this approach, what I'm going to share with you is a key component of the approach. But when the approach was used in its entirety, this parent-child interaction training method, or the teacher version, the teacher-child interaction training method, which has also been trained on ancillary staff, speech-language pathologists, physical therapists, paraprofessionals, occupational therapists. So it's been trained on the staff as well. When I share this approach, I just want to share with you the diversity of children with behavioral challenges that this has worked with. So when we look at the research, children with behavior challenges that also had these concomitant, these concurrent conditions are as followed. So this approach that Dr. Sheila Aberg has developed, and there's been many variations of it, has been shown to be effective with children with autism, with children with oppositional defiant disorder, with children with selective mutism, culturally, linguistically, economically diverse populations with behavioral challenges, children who had a history of abuse or neglect, children with ADHD with behavioral challenges, children with hearing impairments with behavioral challenges, children with antisocial tendencies that demonstrate a lack of empathy or a lack of guilt after hurting another, children with developmental language delays with behavioral challenges, children with minimal speech and increasing their vocalizations. So children, it's a lot. So there's a lot of diversity that this has been studied with. Very diverse populations of children, children with anxiety, So this approach that Dr. Sheila Eiberg had developed in the 70s and that researchers have done many variations of has shown to be effective with diverse populations of children with behavioral challenges. So I feel very comfortable applying this approach to a diverse population on my back porch. I also feel comfortable because this is a responsive approach. This is not an evocative approach in which you're being directive or in which you are demanding language from a child or eliciting in child language on demand by saying, say blank. Instead, you're simply building the child's capacity by giving the child as much positive interactions, as much positive feedback authentically as possible. So let's go through pride and what each of the letters recommend. Let's go through pride and what each of the letters represent in this approach. So P, it represents praise. Now we know praise is not a good thing. It's objective praise, otherwise known as encouragement. But the letter P makes the word pride easy to understand. P stands for objective praise. And what that means, you're simply pointing out the great things that the child is doing in an objective manner. Wow, look at all of those colors that you're using in your art. You're using every single color of the rainbow. Whoa, that tower is so tall. That tower is going to be as tall as I am. I can't believe how tall you've built this tower. You're simply giving objective encouragement in which you're commenting on the child's behavior, on what the child is doing. Wow, I love the way that you're keeping your hands to yourself. I love the way you're sitting and paying attention. And you just give them as much objective encouragement as you can. It's not praise in which you're saying good job, which builds an external locus of control, or you're giving them, oh, you're so smart, you're labeling them in that sense in which if they're not doing the behavior correctly, that would assume that they're not smart. Instead, you're just making objective encouragement comments about the behaviors that they're illustrating in an objective manner. Wow, look how you're standing in a straight line. Whoa, it looks like you're on a train track. So you're just simply giving them that objective encouragement. And I say layer it on 7-layer wedding cake. There's no such thing as too much frosting. Layer on that encouragement. More is more. So that's what the letter P sounds for. Even though it says praise, it's objective praise, otherwise known as objective encouragement. The second letter, R, stands for repeating what the child has said and paraphrasing it. Now, what I like to do as a speech pathologist is when you repeat back what the child says, turn it into a complex sentence. So whatever the child gives you, repeat it back immediately afterwards and turn it into a complex sentence. Complex sentences are gold, and when it comes to recasting, repeating what the child has said, using different grammar, or when it comes to expanding, repeating what the child says and adding words or adding clauses, I say go for the gold. Turn it into a complex sentence. So repeat back whatever the child has said and turn it into a complex sentence. When you do that, you're going to foster greater literacy skills, greater executive function skills, and you're going to increase the language gains. The higher you aim, the higher the gains. So number 2, R, stands for reflect. You can think of that as a reflection. You mirror back what this child says and expand it or paraphrase it, or as I would say, closet, turn it into a complex sentence to optimize language gains and executive function and literacy gains. Number 3, I. When we look at the I, we want to imitate what the child's doing. We join in with the child's doing by doing what the child is doing. Now, this is how children join each other and play at the early preschool level and early elementary level. They don't say, can I play? Can I have a turn? They just do what the other child is doing. So we're going to take notes from them and we're going to join the child in the interaction by doing what the child is doing. And in that way, we're showing the child that I honor what you're doing, I respect what you're doing, and I'm joining in what you're doing because it's something of value. So 3 is imitate the child's action and the word pride. Now we're going to the D, 4. We're going to describe what the child's doing. We call it linguistic mapping in the field of speech pathology. You're being the sportscaster and you're giving the child the play-by-play. What would I say here? Complex sentence, complex sentence, complex sentence, complex sentence. Model complex sentences as much as possible. The more complex the language modeled, the greater the gains. Use the complex sentences. The research is even indicating that parents that use longer, more complex utterances with greater diversity in the verbs of children with autism, they have greater gains. So in the past, we had this idea, say less, speak in shorter phrases when you're speaking with children with autism, but the research does not support that. Vanderbilt had a couple of studies coming out with Paul Yoder and his graduate students over the years that showed that longer, more complex utterances modeled for children with autism, toddlers with autism, preschoolers with autism, you are going to get greater gains in the expressive language. So now we're going to go into E, enjoy. Now this is this idea where you're just enjoying the child. And this is really important to have this calm enthusiasm and warmth. I think sometimes I work with children with sensitive temperaments, and I can just, because I naturally have ADHD, I'm naturally high energy, I think I can be a little bit over the top. So I really do need to be, and I encourage you to be the same, a thermostat. So I need to turn my volume up or down. So if this is a child that does not like it hot, 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 that's too intense for them, I've got to adjust accordingly. So maybe I have to slow my speech a little bit. Maybe I have to quiet the volume a little bit. Maybe I have to not move so quickly, and I have to like turn it down a touch to meet the child and where the child is. Some children are kind of under responders, and to get their attention, I kind of have to turn my volume up. The things are a little bit too cold and frigid, and to get their attention in this sensory distracting environment to stand out, I need to be bigger and bolder. So you're always going to be like a walking human thermostat when it comes to children, and you're going to match your temperature based on the child and where the child is, and match it so that you can join them. But you want to communicate with non-verbally, with smiles, with warmth. Some children respecting that eye contact is a bit too intense. I worked with a lot of children that had a selective mutism over the years. And if I'm face to face with them, it's just too intense. And they like me to work with them side by side instead. So I'm not like all in their face. It's a little bit much. So always just being responsive as a thermostat, and whether you need to turn the heat down or turn the heat up based on the individual child you're working with. But regardless of that, E stands for enjoy. This is simply where you're showing enjoyment of the child's company. So this is what I want you to focus on. These 5 strategies is all about building relationships. If you don't have a positive relationship, you're not going to go anywhere. And how is it, you might ask, that I'm able to focus on pride? And the reason I'm able to focus on pride is because I already have my activities that are educationally rich already set up. So with my SIS membership, it's been such a game changer because I can be totally present and I can respond to the child on a moment-to-moment basis, because I'm not thinking about what am I going to be doing next? Where are my materials? I need to grab something different for every child on my caseload. When it comes to the SIS activities, I have that one activity that's educationally rich, that treats the child's speech, the child's language, the child's literacy, executive function, attention, motor skills. It's all baked in. It treats the whole child. It's educationally rich. So having that already at my fingertips means that I'm able to focus on pride. I'm able to focus on objective encouragement. I'm able to focus on providing reflections using complex sentences. I'm able to imitate what the child does and focus on that. I'm able to use the D, which is to describe using complex sentences what the child is doing. And I'm able to focus on simply enjoying the child and demonstrating enjoyment of my interaction with the child. That happens when you have everything prepped. and ready to go at your fingertips. You're not reaching here and there like an octopus, and your energy is not going in all directions. It's simply going to the child. That's why I love the SIS membership, and that's why myself, I am a member. It's a game changer. Sure, it takes a half hour to prepare all of my materials, a half hour, even to an hour for the week. But then I'm set Monday through Friday. The activities are all set and ready to go. So I encourage you, if you haven't tried the SIS membership, check it out. It is going to be a game changer if you work with early intervention, preschoolers, or elementary age children. This is something that's really going to work for you. So that said, I also encourage you to have wandering eyes. You are not treating a mouth when it comes to speech therapy. You are treating a child. So in this instance, I am looking in the field of psychology, and I'm looking in the field of psychology at a program that's highly empirically based, that works with diverse populations of children, and I'm picking from that approach. I'm doing something different. Am I having an earbud and a teacher or parent's ear, which is part of the parent-child interaction training or teacher-child interaction training, giving them moment-to-moment feedback? No, but I am taking the child-directed interaction approach aspect of it that every child's going to benefit from, and that is highly evidence-based, and I'm going to go ahead and put that into practice in speech-language therapy. So I always encourage you to DSD. I don't encourage you to copy another approach and to use an approach that is copied from a different field and to blindly use it with your own child. I encourage you to do evidence-based practice. I encourage you to look at your back porch, look at your skill set, look at the individual child and the individual child's strengths and the individual child's needs. And then you take on top of this highly evidence-based approach. And what you're going to say is, you know what? Doing the PRIDE, the child-directed interaction, that's something that is really going to be beneficial for the diverse caseload of children I work with who demonstrate anxiety, who demonstrate attentional challenges, who demonstrate behavior disruptive challenges, who demonstrate selective mutism, who are maybe culturally or English language learners who are demonstrating difficulty in learning the new language and all of those challenges that come with that. How can I support them? How can I build their capacity? And I would argue that every child on your caseload could use a little support and capacity building right now. We're in that type of culture. So I want you to take all of this information. I want you to do what you do best and roll up your sleeves and make the world a better place, one child at a time. You are always going to be first.